Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
You've got questions, doubts, and concerns about retirement? We've got answers. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, five-time author and fiduciary, the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
Well, we know you have doubts. We know we have concerns about our money and retirement. Of course, we all have questions. And you might often ask yourself these three questions that I hear over and over again when people are approaching retirement. Number one, am I going to be okay? Number two, have I saved enough? And then finally, the third question that we hear regularly, the most frequent question actually, is, Tony, this is savers talking, of course, Tony, am I going to ever run out of money? Well, you should be asking yourself these questions, because if you do wait too long to ask these questions, it may be too late in the game to do anything about it. Thank you for joining the WorryFree Retirement. I am Tony Walker, and with us, as always, in the studio is America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orander. And you're about to watch the only show in the country that is specifically dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. And we're going to kind of take a dive into these frequently asked questions, and more importantly, I'm going to provide you some solutions or strategies on how to answer these questions. You know, of our 2,500 plus clients and thousands of people I've met over the years, that's the biggest question. I understand it's a big concern when you are approaching retirement. Actually, this comes up when people have already retired. They might come into me for an appointment. As we like to say, they want me to look at their stuff, and they really still have these same questions that still continue to kind of plague them. And obviously, we are very good at answering these questions. Before we get into today's show, I did want to thank the folks that attended our last three workshops. By the way, we're recording this show on May 1st, if you can believe that. May 1st, 2018, had a great response. We had a workshop in Louisville. The following night, we were in Elizabethtown, and then Thursday in Bowling Green. And we covered the 5 common mistakes people are making with their money and how to safeguard your money. So just in case you missed one of the workshops, it's never too late. If you want to safeguard your money, of course, all you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on the Let's Get Started button. And the wonderful thing is we can meet in person at no cost or obligation to see exactly how we can help you avoid these costly mistakes people keep making. Well, again, with over 100 people in attendance, and at the end of the workshop, you hear these same questions. I know one of our newest staff members, Matt, got to sit in on a workshop, and one of his goals and objectives here is to help with some of the graphic design and also some of the digital marketing we're doing. And I wanted Matt to kind of just sit and hear the questions from many of these savers. And he said, you're right, Tony. I mean, the questions they're asking are fundamental to just not running out of money, keeping it simple, making sure they have enough money so they won't worry. And he's kind of like, I get it. I realize you've got a clientele that really needs your help and wants your help. So with each question, we got to have a response, and that's what we're going to do today. We're basically assuming, again, that some of you sitting there are already retired, or this show is geared towards people roughly about the age of 55 or older. So this show, content-wise, is geared towards people already retired or people that are roughly 55 or older that are really seriously thinking about retirement and want to make sure they're on the right track. Incidentally, if you do meet with us, you're going to see our WorryFree Retirement Process software, folks. This is the only software in the country that's been built and geared towards savers. And what a lot of people tell me when they get this software and they see it laid out, they'll say, Tony, this is the first time anybody's ever showed me exactly what I've got, and then secondly, how I'm going to use it. One more thing, and I will get to these strategies, I promise you, but this is really important. The other day I met with a gentleman, and this is happening more and more. And I get it. I'm fine. It's your money, folks. You can talk to as many advisors as you want. You can attend as many dinner seminars as you want. Actually, I don't blame you on the dinner seminars. Those are pretty nice steak dinners. But anyway, what's going to happen is, if you go see a lot of these advisors, this is the feedback I'm getting, and this gentleman told me this. They're not going to give you anything in writing, or if they do, it's very limited information. Now, let's square this up right now. I'm a fiduciary. I'm here to work in your best interest, regardless of whether you're a client. As a fiduciary, it's my calling to give you everything you need to make an intelligent decision. And that includes our assessment binder, which lays out everything, our fees, any commissions we make. We're going to assume low interest rates on all the things we're trying to do to make sure that you actually make it in retirement. So here's my suggestion. If you go into an advisor, and that's all right, they are on the whiteboard and they're going to town, that's great. But if they end a session and they tell this gentleman what they tell you, that we can't give you anything in writing until you decide to work with us, now, folks, that's ridiculous. That would be like me walking around a car lot. Let's say I'm wanting to buy a new car, and I see 1,000 beautiful cars, and there's a wonderful salesman that greets me, and I'm looking at all the cars, and there's no stickers on them. And I'm like, well, how much does that car cost? Does that have a warranty? And he's finally saying, no, we're not going to tell you anything about the car until you agree to buy a car from me. I mean, that would be ludicrous, but this is what's happening in the financial world. So you need to work with a fiduciary, regardless of it's me or somebody else. Do not sign on the dotted line or give any money to anybody until you have it completely laid out in writing and you understand what you've got. This is the key. Now, we think about this. We think, well, what about your granddad, Tony? Did he have to go see any advisors? That's the problem. See, folks, what we're going to get into today is my granddad in 1978 didn't have all these issues. He wasn't running around seeing advisors because he didn't have a 401k. He had mailbox money. He didn't have to worry about investing money trying to get more than 1% at the bank because back then the banks were paying 7, 8, 9%. So this is a totally different world, and you've got to take control of your money. So retirement, while on paper, yeah, it sounds easy. You pick a date and you look at your Social Security and you give it a whirl. But for savers, it's becoming more and more challenging. We haven't even mentioned stock market volatility, a bear market. We got the low interest rates. We got healthcare going through the roof. And now people are living longer and longer. So it is very important for you to understand that a retirement specialist, someone what we do, can set up these strategies. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I went a little long this first segment. When we return, I'm going to nail through these main strategies in this next segment. So if you need to put the dog out real quick, do that. Close up the dishwasher, sit down and relax because these are really important. If you're looking to safeguard your money and to get those 3 important questions answered, stay tuned. I'll be right back with some money-saving strategies. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Can you afford for your money to take a hit with the stock market being so volatile these days? Nobody can time the market, but having a retirement game plan with Tony Walker Financial gives you peace of mind and sleep insurance. Learn how to prevent losses in your retirement accounts and plan your retirement around an income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com today to schedule a personal meeting with Tony to secure your hard-earned money. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Annuities. Some people love them and some people hate them. Regardless of how you feel about annuities, one thing's for sure, annuities are the only financial product that can guarantee an income you can never outlive. I'm Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you're thinking about buying an annuity or you have a current annuity that you would like me to review, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Since 9/11, we've written over 2,500 annuities, and we can help you by getting started now. Welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement. We got to get after it. Aaron says, chop, chop, Tony. So let's get into these strategies. Now, there's not a certain number of strategies. I could probably come up with 50 if we had the time, but these are some of the main strategies that I see to trying to answer those main questions about having enough money, making sure you feel like you've done a good job saving for retirement. And finally, the third question is, will I run out of money? How do we keep from that happening? Strategy number 1, you got to have a comprehensive retirement game plan. What's the old saying, folks? If you don't have a plan, how do you know where the heck you're going? My late great father-in-law, he was a big traveler. He used to use, I know Aaron wouldn't probably remember these, but the old triptychs from AAA. You'd go get these things that were maps, and some old nice lady or somebody in there would take a yellow marker. But now when I went to Crested Butte, Colorado with my father-in-law and my wife and his wife when we first got married, I mean, it was hilarious. Everything was mapped out, where we stayed, where we went to the grocery, gasoline, all that. So everything was well planned out. So basically, planning your retirement is like planning a well-planned trip, like my father-in-law. You have to know where you're going, and you have to get things very organized, and then have a game plan, right? Kind of reminds me of that story of the road in Vermont, that rural road where people were not wanting to travel on. There was a sign there that said, choose your ruts carefully. You'll be in them for the next 20 miles. Planning's like that. Be careful which direction you go because it may be hard to change things. All right, the next strategy is making sure, and you got to almost do this to yourself, okay? You want to under-promise yourself so that you can over-deliver. And you want an advisor that under-promises, so hopefully they over-deliver. What I'm seeing is the opposite. People coming to me, and in many cases, whether they've watched TV ads or they've read stuff on the internet or met with certain advisors, not all advisors do this, but some advisors, I think, overpromise, and unfortunately, they set themselves and their clients up for failure. I'll give you an example. Investments. What are you going to pick and what interest rate are we going to assume? So for instance, when we're meeting with somebody, if we're running a Schwab account, again, we can put money in the market through Charles Schwab as our custodian. A lot of people will look down and they'll say, well, Tony, how much money am I going to make on this Schwab? I'll say, I don't know. It's not an annuity. It's not guaranteed. I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is we have 3 portfolios, and I'm going to make really, really conservative assumptions. It still may not be right, but conservative assumptions that we're only going to assume you make 2 to 3%. And they're like, 2 to 3%? Well, that's not very much. And I say, well, no, we've done much better than that in the past, but past is not prologue. We can't guarantee that. So why wouldn't we just want to use 2 or 3%? Because in retirement planning, this is not trying to, quote, grow your money. If you're a saver, you're not trying to put it at risk and shoot the moon here. What you're trying to do is preserve as much of your principal as you can, earn a competitive interest rate, and more importantly, have someone like us structure the cash flow so you always know that you got plenty of money to live on. So the problem is many of you are taking way, way too much risk. You're going back to your 401k or IRA, or your advisor is telling you that you can count on 8, 9, 10%. And that's crazy. I mean, you are really, really setting yourself up for failure. I know in the last show we talked about this. Remember the example. In fact, let's go to this, Aaron. Let's go to this particular slide full screen and go over this. So take a look at this, folks. Think of what's happening. Imagine you had $300,000. You're taking out $20,000 a year. Now, we imagine you retired 4 years before 2008. That was the year that the market literally crashed. Now, that's all fine and good. We slide over to the right. You can see the account still growing, and by the 3rd year, you've got more money than you put in. You've taken out $20,000. Let's say we were investing this for you, and now I'm a hero, right? We got it all in the market. Now, all of a sudden, '08 hits. Look at the drop of the market. We're assuming a 37% drop. Some of it was higher, some of it was lower. But look how much the account drops down to. You still need money. See, this is where the problem is. You still have to take out $20,000. And what happens? You look over to the right and you're down in the 180 range. Can you imagine being completely retired, all right, and all of a sudden you thought you had $300,000, and here we go. You got this issue where you got $180,000, but again, you need money. What are you going to do? See, this is a problem. This is why in the worry-free retirement process, what we're trying to do is have balance. It's called asset allocation. For savers, we want some money, usually it's about 60 to 70%, guaranteed. That's why we use a lot of fixed indexed annuities. That's why we're not opposed to having some money in the bank. We want guarantees. The balance of that money, absolutely, we can take a little bit of risk with that, but let's be prudent as we get into retirement. So again, don't overestimate your returns. Be very, very conservative in what you're assuming. Strategy number 3 that we've come up with, and I'm going to lop these together, but costs. You know, one thing about the worry-free retirement, my training, I'm trained in what's called opportunity cost. So in finance, if you have a lack of understanding of opportunity cost, not only are you going to lose $1, what happens is you don't understand. I didn't understand this when I went through all the planning courses I used to take. I didn't understand opportunity cost, and what I didn't know is every dollar that my client loses, they lose the dollar on it plus the interest forever. And forever is a long time, folks. That's a lot of money. Well, where do we get these costs, Tony? You could have investments with fees. We talk about that all the time. Here, by the way, here's what I've decided on fees, because I've studied fees a long time. If you are investing in a managed account, like our Charles Schwab program or like any other program where you have a brokerage account involved that has risk, listen closely. If that fee is over 1% in most cases, it's way too high. Maybe 1.25% I can handle, but most of you are paying 1.5% or more. Let's show another graphic here, Aaron. This is almost alarming. What we did, the typical money manager that we run into charges 1.5%. So we're going to imagine in the first graphic here that the 1.5% fee is coming off a $300,000 account. And just for illustrative purposes, we're imagining that it makes 5% per year. Okay, let's call that option A. Option B, you put $300,000 with us. Maybe you roll your 401k over, or maybe you have some money languishing in the bank or a brokerage account you don't understand. You want some simplicity. You roll that to us. We charge 0.6%. Now let's look at the numbers, because a lot of people might be saying, well, that doesn't seem like a big difference, Tony. 1.5% and 0.6%. What's the big deal? Well, let's look at the first one. So look at this. At the end of 29 years, there's $813,000 in your account. And at first glance, you say, well, what's wrong with that, Tony? You know, had $300,000, 29 years later, I got over $800,000. That is a lot of money. But let's take a look at what you would have had in your pocket at the end of that same time period had we invested in our platform, again, assuming we could make 5% just like the other account. We're just making assumptions here. But the difference is the fees. Now, these are guaranteed differences, okay? 0.6%. You say, what does that get me at the end? It gets you a whole lot of money. In fact, let's show that, Aaron. At the end of 29 years, $300,000 at 5% with 0.6% with our Charles Schwab platform that we use. Look at that. You have $1,045,000. Folks, that's over $200,000 in your pocket. That's a lot of money. So again, fees are a huge strategy in helping answer those three vital questions to make sure you feel worry-free in retirement. What about Social Security? You know, over the years, I've realized Social Security is a very complicated issue, and it affects so many people. A lot of times people forget when they're doing income planning for themselves that when a spouse dies, they lose some of that money. So what we did, we took a dive into Social Security, and Lisa in our office is certified in Social Security planning. So when it gets to Social Security, if we're doing an assessment, not always, some cases though, we've got to dive into that Social Security, and for no additional cost, we'll make sure that we maximize your options for Social Security. So whether you've already drawn Social Security and you're trying to deal with the taxes and minimize those, or you're trying to decide when to take Social Security, we can help you out through our analysis. Again, there's no sales pitches, there's no gimmicks, no products are going to be pushed on you. We're just taking you through an assessment that provides good, clear information so you can make a sound decision on your money. I like this. How would you like to turn your 401k into a retirement income workhorse? In the next segment, we're going to talk about this, but we're kind of just outside Derby Week here, and I was invited to a function at the Churchill Downs with horses, and I thought about that. I thought about horses, and they were talking about, they had some heavy-duty trainers there that knew a lot about horses, but I look back there and just how well these horses are taken care of. They're worked, they're groomed, they're bathed, they eat the right nutrition, they're taken well care of. Why do they do that? Well, they do that so when the gates open, those horses are operating at their peak performance and hopefully win the race or at least make a good showing. I mean, I don't think they just let a horse sit out there and graze and all of a sudden 2 years later take him over to the Derby and let's just see what happens. But that's what some of you are doing with your retirement. It's like a horse sitting out in the field and you're feeding it, let's say your 401k, but you're not grooming that horse. You have no ability to take that horse out onto the racetrack, and what do we want? We want that 401k to eventually provide lifetime income. Think about it. It's not really that difficult. You've got a 401k you've set up. You're socking money in, and that's all well and good. Wall Street loves it. Everybody loves it. The government loves it because they're going to tax it one day. But the point is, what are you doing to get it ready to pay you lifetime income? Because eventually you got to get out of the stalls and onto the track. We call that retirement. So many of you, income is not the backbone of your retirement game plan, and it needs to be. So this is where we can help. We are specialists at helping people go from what we call people at work, that's while you're working, to retirement, or what we call capital at work. What we can do is take that 401k or that money languishing in the bank, and we can literally put legs on it. We can get it working for you to provide lifetime income. Incidentally, a lot of people are still asking for the booklet, Mailbox Money for Life. It is on the website. I would encourage you to get that because it talks about turning your 401k or other monies into an income workhorse. It's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Look for the Mailbox Money for Life booklet. I would highly encourage you to order that, and we can certainly sit down and show you how to turn that 401k that's sitting there maybe at risk in the market into a guaranteed stream of income you can never outlive. Well, what does the Bible have to say about these types of questions and risk and concerns? And quite frankly, what many people are actually asking with all that, have I made any mistakes? You know what? We've all made mistakes, and the Bible deals with that. And regardless of what happens with your money now or in the future, this is some good news I'm getting ready to share with you. But as you know, I got to get me a cup of coffee. You stay tuned.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
So there you are watching the WorryFree Retirement and have an interest in our process. So you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and you click on the Let's Get Started button. You say, now what? Well, first of all the information you provide us is strictly confidential. Only one of our full-time employees will see this information and contact you immediately to confirm your submission of the information you've sent and to schedule a time to see us. Shortly after setting up your first appointment, you will receive a starter kit for you to complete to bring to that first appointment meeting. Now, during our 30-minute time together, we will clarify your vision, review all of your documents, and then schedule a second appointment so that we can provide your free assessment. During the second appointment, you'll have a chance to review the assessment. We will answer any questions you have, and then you can take that assessment for review, again, at absolutely no cost or obligation to you. Of course, if you wish to move forward with any of our recommendations, we will set up another appointment and handle all the moving of the money from your current brokerage accounts, 401ks, or other institutions into our worry-free retirement process. It really is that simple. So what are you waiting for? If you're retired, nearing retirement, maybe have a 401k or lump sum pension, or recently received an inheritance or other lump sum amount of money, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Another good cup of coffee. We got just a few minutes here, so let me start off with what the Bible has to say about money, about attending a Louisville fundraising event at Churchill Downs last night. It was called Race for Grace. It's a ministry geared towards helping what they refer to as the backstage workers there at Churchill Downs, the ones that are doing all the tiring work back there with the horses and all that good stuff. By the way, here's a picture I copped with the bugler, Steve Buttleman. And speaking of bugler, can I tell a quick story, Aaron? You okay on time? He says, better hurry up. All right. Back in elementary school, when my kids were like in first grade, Connie, I'll call her Connie, the teacher, we had this derby thing where the kids would fashion broomsticks with little horse heads on it, put it between their legs, and try to race around. And so she's meeting with the parents, and she says, anybody know how to play the trumpet or bugle? And I said, hey, I used to be a trumpet player. What do you need? And she said, Tony, we need the following call. Let's play that call real quick, Aaron. All right, you've heard that, right? That's how it... Okay, so I didn't think to listen. I couldn't remember what the call was. So I practiced my call, and I show up, and all the kids and parents are there, and everybody's excited. And all of a sudden, Connie motions to me to play, and I play so proudly, This was what I thought the call was. Go ahead and play that. All right, and obviously that was the wrong call, so I made a big mistake. But you know what? Even with that huge mistake, and Connie was so frustrated with me, parents were laughing at me, kids could care less. Everybody had a good time, and in the end, we all got a big laugh out of it. So we've all been making mistakes for a long time, and even in finances, some of you are struggling with mistakes you've made, and quite frankly, concerns and things in the future that we still may not be able to avoid. It is a difficult world, folks, and as much as we'd like to guarantee we'll never have any problems, that's just not going to be realistic to think about. So think about the changes that we just talked about, mistakes you've made in the past, and then you think about in your own strength how you've tried to deal with them. And many of you would say, we have to admit, good luck with that one. Let's take the stock market, for instance. It's constantly changing, and we all must agree that there's no way we can completely control our fate when it comes to the stock market. It's a good representation of what the world's really like. But let's turn to Hebrews 12:27, Aaron, an interesting verse of Scripture, Hebrews 12:27, which simply says that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. So what are those things? If you're a follower of Christ, your faith and the salvation that's been provided to you based on your commitment to Him. Here's the point. No stock market collapse, no running out of money, nothing will affect your faith as long as you place your trust in Him. The eternal stuff we're talking about, folks, can never be shaken. In fact, the great writer Spurgeon once said of this verse, although by losses you are brought to poverty and stripped bare, you can say, He is my Father still. In my Father's house are many mansions, therefore I will not be troubled. Now that's what I call worry-free living. Well, the theme of today's show is the trouble with making mistakes and not having a game plan that what we like to say would guarantee perfection. It's not possible in this world, but we can sure work for it. We can sure strive for it, and we want to try to help you as best we can perfect your walk in retirement by not making unnecessary mistakes, paying unnecessary fees, taxes, risk. That's what the Worry-Free Retirement's all about, and it's easy to get started. To meet in person with me at either the Bowling Green office or Louisville, Kentucky office, you just jump on over to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. Once there, we will meet in person. We will do a free assessment of your situation, and then you can decide what you would like to do with us in terms of your investment decisions moving forward. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've enjoyed being with you. You remember, between now and next week, between now and the time we see each other, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.